Hello sheeple. Sorry about the hair, bit of a mess at the moment. Let's call it the windswept look. You might probably want to have maybe a glass of something strong and matured. Help you relax for the duration of this video today to talk about some of these big subjects. Today I'd like to read you a few notes that I made for you about poverty and war. I was just asking Google God, how many of us sheeple live below the poverty line? I'm only checking the first page or two. Now there's about 7.8 billion of us sheeple in the world. And according to Google God, about 689 million of us live in extreme poverty. That's about 9.2% of the population. And about 2 billion of us live in ordinary poverty, for want of a better way to put it. That's about 25% of the population. Different countries will have different values and benchmarks for defining poverty. And you're going to get vastly differing numbers with every... Yeah, there's my dog barking. Shush, Rusty. With every vastly different numbers, with every different place you look and every different method and value that you apply. But it's a lot. We all know many sheeple, many fellow sheeple living in our own Western countries, cities, neighbourhoods, struggling to make ends meet, let alone sheeple living in nations like Central Africa and many other places of extreme poverty. And oh my God, is it getting worse. All this pandemic and climate change nonsense. The standard benchmark used to define extreme poverty is those living on less than $1.90 per day. This $1.90 per day starvation level poverty brings me to the point of this video for two reasons. Reason one, there's plenty of food in the world. There always has been. I hope you haven't forgotten this, because at this present time, our governments are intentionally creating food shortages to further an agenda. It's a subject for another video. Modern technology and equipment have enabled one man to produce hundreds of times more food than in the past. This wonderful fact is obliterated by food being destroyed for economic reasons, intentional mismanagement, detrimental farming practices, discouraging individual production, and many other nefarious reasons, all requiring another video. But the important thing to understand is that this is by design. Our owners cannot give us sheeple the freedom and therefore the power of readily available free-for-all food or energy. Reason two, why less than $1.90 a day? For 689 million sheeple in extreme poverty, according to Google God anyway, when we spend billions and billions and billions, and going on for a long time, on war, and more billions spent on the COVID-19 and climate change, ginormous protection racket scams, and blood-sucking gazillionaire royalty like Queen Elizabeth II, just celebrated 70 platinum years of vicious, privileged, vampiric evil. The Catholic Church also sits on golden thrones under God and shags as many kids as they like, while we worship them and attack anti-vaxxers because the TV said so. And of course, there are many extreme examples of established, powerful organisations intrinsic to our evil society. Governments, banks, Google God, Facebook, etc., 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 are only supposed to provide a service, not tell us what to do and what to think. No matter how advanced and sophisticated we supposedly get, we've never been allowed to be happy, truly knowledgeable, and free as a whole. Though human beings can be bad, us sheeple are arseholes. But evil of this magnitude is by design. Our civilizations need to be confused, depraved, obedient to perceived authorities, to enable elites to keep control. The patient, meticulous and brilliant elites are privileged with amazing insight to our reality that they'll never share. They wield heinous weapons of division and conflict, all too easily separating us via any difference and channeling our pain and frustrations to further their goals, not ours. Let's have a talk about war. But remember, war is not just about more powerful governments bombing weaker nations back to the Stone Age and claiming to be a hero for doing it. There are also economic hitmen, professional infiltrating troublemakers. There is also weather warfare, where the victim will not even know they're at war. Yes, weather can be controlled. Weather warfare is also great for inside jobs when your government doesn't want to be as obvious as like with 9/11. Professional troublemakers are also employed by your own government. They create things like Black Lives Matter or pretend to be selflessly promoting gay rights, etc., etc., etc. But always the true goals are maliciously detrimental to all but the powers that be. Let's talk about some of the simple, well-known wars. Now, we know they're nothing to do with actual defence or protection. America under Biden, not that it makes any difference, it makes no difference, proposed the largest ever budget for 2023. A Pentagon request to Congress asked for $813.3 billion. This is for the war in Ukraine and the tension build-up re Russia and China. Representatives from both parties have complained that this doesn't go far enough because of inflation. And remember, if you're one of the Western sheeple that laugh at corruption in other countries, usually black, take a close look at your own and have compassion for suffering of third world sheeple and the blood on our hands for not caring. We're all only cattle anyway, merely in a better paddock at present. And we're being merged at present with those paddocks we don't like. The elites are of no country and don't need a passport. War is merely to sacrifice sheeple and introduce change. There are more billions spent and more blood and suffering caused than can possibly be justified. Another reason why we're dumbed down and manipulated. And you must understand by now, it's not the tragedy that this money isn't spent on the $1.90 a day destitute. It's a horrific realization that this money is spent to actually keep the world in this horrendous state. The elites via America and allies, especially England, have decided to finalise their plan of world domination and absolute power. We invade Afghanistan over the inside job that 9/11 obviously was. We invade Iraq because of the weapons of mass destruction fairy tale. We invade Libya via professional troublemakers sent in to infiltrate, mislead, hurt citizens and blame the government. We invade Syria using the same evil method. USA started bullying the crap out of Iran in around 1980, justifying their disgusting behaviour with the usual claims of protecting human rights and other nonsense, whilst Israel can torture anyone they like. The list of invasions, bullying and outright brutality from USA, Britain and other allies goes on and on and on throughout history. And only us sheeple could possibly allow them almost unquestionably to accuse any other nation of anything ever again. But soon they won't have to. The elites now control nearly every country in the world. Ukraine already had a puppet government installed by the US long before Russia came along. From the moment your mother told you to finish your dinner because there were people in this world that didn't have enough to eat, we knew there was something very wrong in this world. But our personal struggle, our completely inadequate, meagre compassion and empathy, media deception, government indoctrination makes satanic levels of suffering in others nothing more than a morbid curiosity. It's crystal clear now that us sheeple are way too pathetic to ever stand up against our governments and in turn the elites. Be the elites otherworldly beings, alternate dimensional life forms, or just the absolute worst of humanity. They are so far ahead, it's hard to see the point in fighting back. All we had to do is refuse to obey any more rules and regulations from our owners and learn independence in small groups with absolutely no extreme centralized power anywhere that will always be abused. So what now? Well, I suggest hunkering down with as many like-minded souls as you can find and prepare to weather the biggest and the most horrendous storm you have ever and will ever face again. To end on a positive note, I noticed that all the propaganda and psychological manipulation and division techniques have to be constantly applied. This implies that we can recover. Our love for one another and therefore unity may be stronger than I think. So when the shit really hits the fan, we may refuse to live in the world the elites have planned for us. The moonlight fades with the morning glow. Goodbye, sheeple.